Welcome to the Intersection Magazine podcast. My guest today is Dr. McLean Sibanda. I met him briefly after an interaction on WhatsApp, and I found out about the work that he was doing in the innovation ecosystem, and then met him also again and managed to purchase his book. So I've been poring over the book for the last 2 days. Very interesting read, very interesting perspectives about the innovation ecosystem. Dr. Sibanda has done quite a lot of work in South Africa, in Gauteng province in particular. And he's run the innovation hub there. He ran the innovation hub there for probably about 7 to 9 years. But he's also been active in World Intellectual Property Organization. He's also been active in academia. And I really wanted to get his insights on, of course, talk about the book, but also some of the ideas that maybe we can adopt as a country, Uganda. So we'll see how much we can talk about during this short period, but I think you guys will probably enjoy this. Thank you. So, Dr. Sibanda, tell us a little bit about your work in Gauteng at the Innovation Hub, challenges that you face. Tell us a little bit about your background. I read that you have an engineering and legal background. And then about your unique style of leadership, which you described as servant leadership. Tell us a little bit about those three subjects.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nicholas, and thank you for having me on your podcast. So I started off as a CEO of the Innovation Hub in 2011, at the beginning of 2011. Prior to that, I had been within the national innovation ecosystem with an innovation agency called the Technology Innovation Agency, and its predecessor, which was called the Innovation Fund. And I spent quite a bit of time with the National Department of Science and Technology, where I'd been seconded for the development of intellectual property policy. And so when I assumed the role of CEO of the Innovation Hub in 2011, it was an organization that was in fight with itself, in fight with its shareholders, and in fight with its board, in essence. And just for your listeners, the Innovation Hub is a science and technology park located in the heart of the economic hub of South Africa, Gauteng, in Pretoria. And it was established by the government of Gauteng around about 2021 to foster economic development through science and innovation. And so when I took over, I was basically given a mandate to reposition it. And part of that repositioning was to look at, is it fit for purpose? Is it doing what it is meant to be doing? How is it perceived by its stakeholders, the people that it is meant to serve? And look at the capacity within the Innovation Hub to see whether it is adequate for it to execute its mandate. And that was quite a tall order because I'd never heard of science parks prior to actually assuming the role of CEO. And as I talk about it in the book, I found an organization which was a science park, yet no one there had a degree in science. Previous CEOs are the ones that used to have degrees in science. So I was fortunate. I had a very supportive board. I went to the board and I said that we need to recruit subject matter experts and make sure that we talk to our stakeholders and serve our stakeholders. And so that was the beginning of a journey that then became an 8-year-old journey of repositioning of the Innovation Hub. Now, in that repositioning, part of the challenge is obviously you've got people that had been there for much longer. They were quite comfortable, but it was quite clear that it could not be business as usual. So the next few years were spent repositioning it, looking at what do we require, and different people in the bus sitting in the right seat. First of all, are they in the right bus? And if they are in the right bus, are they sitting in the right seat? If they're not sitting in the right seat, how do you get them to the right seat? If they're not in the right bus, how do you then work with these people to make sure that they understand that they're in the wrong bus? And this is where, in essence, I also found my own approach to leading people was challenged. Because I want to get results. And I realized 6 months into it that I would need to change tech. I would need to understand where people are at. I would also need to appreciate the fact that each and every single person that walks through the gates every morning is a mother, is a father, is a brother, is a sister. It's someone's child that voluntarily chooses to wake up and come to work. And therefore, I think as a leader, one needs to then appeal to their inner conscience and also to the fact that they are well-meaning. So that was a journey. As you have said, my background is engineering. I did engineering at University of the Witwatersrand, Wits University. And then I went on to do law, became a patent attorney, and that has been a journey that I have chosen from studies as well as part of the work.
Okay. Now, I've noticed here that you have about 6 or 5 different parts to the work that you do, the Maxum Business Incubator, an MLab, and then BioPark, the Climate Innovation Center, Green Economy, and then Ekasi Labs, and then the Maxum Digital. Tell us a little bit about Ekasi Labs, because from the literature, from the book that you've written, this seem to have gone all around South Africa, and this looks like a project that has been very successful.
Yeah, so the work of the Innovation Hub as a science and technology park is to act as a catalyst and an enabler for economic development within the region. Okay. Now, one of the critical things that we all know now is that SMEs and startups are really the future of our economies. And so incubation becomes important. And so the instruments that you've described, Maxum, Climate Innovation Center, BioPark, are incubators. But one of the things that we did realize is that whereas most of the population is in the townships in South Africa, the Innovation Hub was located within a well-developed urban area. Okay. And so people that needed to access it needed to catch 2 taxis, could be as long as a 2-hour journey to the Innovation Hub. So we then said, well, how do we take innovation to the people? Okay. So we worked with the municipalities, we worked with the technology colleges at the townships to be able to do a collaboration where we use some of their spaces and we equip the spaces and we provide exactly the same services that we're providing at the Innovation Hub in Pretoria. Okay. So these became community innovation centers. And by the time I left the Innovation Hub in the later part of 2018, we were incubating in the township through Ekasi Lab close to 300 startups.
Wow.
And so I believe that project has been quite successful, and we've seen more initiatives of scaling that from 10 Ekasi Labs. I believe they're opening up another 2 or so, and the model is now being taken to other provinces.
Oh, that's really good. Now, I also noticed that in the book you mentioned the challenge about private sector leadership and public sector leadership. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think the two come from a different mindset. You see, public sector, the focus is you have to spend the money that you're given. Mm-hmm. Private sector is you have to create the money. Mm-hmm. So 2 different styles and also different approaches. And I came most of my life had been spent in the private sector. Okay. And when I looked in terms of the public sector, the agency was actually quite different. People are always guaranteed a salary at the end of the month within the public sector. Mm-hmm. But in the private sector, that's not the case. Mm-hmm. And therefore, as we worked with the with the different stakeholders, and as we wanted to bring on board private sector to our ecosystem, it was quite clear that we also needed to talk to their needs as to exactly why should they be part of our ecosystem. They need to generate profits. They've got products that they need to develop. They've got partners, supply partners and channels that they need to develop, and therefore we had to appeal to, in essence, a self-interest, on their part. But on our side, we had money a bit of money to spend, but also, with the challenges that face South Africa, whether it's unemployment, inequality, or poverty, we had a big role in terms of assisting government to address that, and that you cannot address on your own as government. You need private sector.
Okay. Now, in Uganda, we have business parks. We've got the Nakawa Business Park, which has it's a space for businesses that can work there and get good rates for rent and power and things of that nature. But I noticed that in your book you talked about science parks as catalysts. So tell us how we can pivot as a country towards science parks. And I know that you've also done quite a lot of work on the continent around science parks, and you've spoken extensively and done some work in Botswana and also in Nigeria. Tell us how we can pivot as a country towards the creation of science parks.
So science parks, they're very important instruments in any country, and their focus is around regional economic development. And so for a country like Uganda, I would recommend looking at the areas quite in proximity to the universities and setting up a space. It doesn't have to be a lot of land. It can be just as little as 5 hectares of land, and perhaps an anchor building. And then working very closely with the university such that the knowledge that gets generated at the university can move to the science park. It could be supported through the incubators, but then within the science park, then you start to attract private sector to establish themselves within the science park. You could provide incentives for private sector to locate, and that way then you're able to create an ecosystem where there's private sector and there are emerging startups that become benefit from the private sector being there, and the private sector benefits from the startups being there through access to new technology, access to talent as well.
Okay. Now, the other thing I was really interested in is you talked about acceleration and incubation, and I'd like to know a bit clearer the difference between the two. Yes.
So an incubator is really, I think, you've got to think of a baby that is born prematurely. They cannot breathe on their own. There's certain organs that are not able to function on their own. Therefore, you put them in an incubator in a hospital, and this is a support system that allows them to start to breathe on their own. And then once they're able to do that, they're taken out of the incubator, and in essence, they're pushed out into the world. Now, incubators play a big role, particularly around establishment of new businesses. They provide mentorship, they provide access to a network, they provide, in essence, coaching, and they assist also in terms of providing space, office, shared facilities, so that the business founder focuses on building the business. They're not worried about the other things, but at the same time, they are equipped with business skills that they require to succeed. On the other hand, an accelerator takes someone that has built something and they have a prototype, they might have a minimum viable product, and then they put in a bit of money. Normally, acceleration is a shorter period, anything from 3 to 6 months. It could even be a couple of weeks, whereas incubation tends to be anything from a year to about 3 years or so.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Now, you talked about science parks, and then you also mentioned in the book about the bioeconomy, entrepreneurs, and how it requires lots of funding. How did you get around the funding issue for the bioeconomy entrepreneurs?
So when we started, we needed about 350 million South African rands to set up the BioPark, right? The designs and so forth, but no one was actually forthcoming with that. So what we did is we bootstrapped and said, what is the minimum that we need to put in place? And there I think there's a lesson for any entrepreneur to say that you might need so much money, but what exactly what is the minimum that you require to be able to prove that the idea could work? Okay. And then we were lucky, we built phase one, and as we built phase one, we then tapped into the broader ecosystem and made sure that the entrepreneurs and focus on developing prototypes and pilots wherein there could be outcomes that can be shown to the funders. And we're able to successfully help some of them to access funding from the typical funders. But I think one of the novel things that we did is we set up a small fund internally, and we recognize the fact that there's some critical work that normally needs to be done in order for a funder to be interested. And this is really validating that the idea is valid. And from that, we brought on board funders into that ecosystem. We called it the startup support program. And through that, we're able to then leverage additional funding from outside for these entrepreneurs.
Okay. Then I also noticed that you mentioned the importance of innovation competitions. Tell us a little bit about those competitions.
So competitions for us served two purposes. One was to showcase the ingenuity of young people within the province. And the second one was to develop a pipeline for our incubator. So we ran these competitions. They're still running. In fact, 2 weeks ago, they were giving the awards to what we call the GAP Awards in South Africa. And through that, great entrepreneurs have come out, great companies have come out which have got products and services in the marketplace. And I think for a country like Uganda, it's probably important to actually then have a competition, innovation competition that you run once a year. And the prize can be part money, part incubation, where they get into an incubator, where they get supported, and then we also, through the competition, enable them to then access additional sources of funding and additional sources of new markets. Okay.
Then I also noticed that you talked about the funding ecosystem. How developed is South Africa's ecosystem in terms of funding ecosystem, in terms of venture capital, angel investing, and equity?
It's fairly well developed. Well, government is a significant funder within that ecosystem. So government funds basic fundamental research. They've set up a new instrument called the Technology Innovation Agency that then takes up from the basic fundamental research to get to, in essence, working prototypes and also start to commercialize, upscale. And then there's the Industrial Development Corporation that comes in almost to take over from the Technology Innovation Agency. We've seen an increase in terms of angel investors, and these are private wealthy individuals. Venture capital is still at its infancy, but it's much more advanced than it was. For example, when I wrote the book, there's now more venture capital. But venture capital, it's risky money, and for entrepreneurs, they need to know what they're actually dealing with. Otherwise, they end up without a business. So within your own ecosystem, I would really encourage perhaps more smaller funding from the government, perhaps a cultivation of wealthy individuals. Tax incentives become quite important in terms of ensuring that you can grow that particular funding ecosystem. And in South Africa, there's a 150% R&D tax that then encourages businesses to invest in research and development. And then there was a venture capital tax incentive as well that had been introduced.
And then I also noticed you talked about the innovation chasm, the skills gap, the culture gap, and the funding gap. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So when we talk about innovation, quite often people mistake innovation for invention. So invention is when you come up with a new idea that has got potential to do certain things, but innovation is really when you take that new idea and you apply it in industry, society, to solve problems and to generate new products and new services. So someone is consuming that idea. The distance between the generation of the idea and the market is really where that chasm lies. So when we talk about a culture, it's a culture of entrepreneurship that is missing, the culture of seeing the opportunity in the market and linking up that opportunity or linking the research idea to the opportunity. When we talk about a funding gap, it's really those small amounts of money that are required to be able to move the idea forward. And when we talk about also, I think I talk about a people gap, is really the talent, because not only the talent to generate the new ideas, but it's a talent to convert those new ideas into products and services. So it's an entrepreneurship ecosystem that needs to be developed. And that entrepreneurship ecosystem is somehow different from a research ecosystem, because I think the mistake that I've seen in the continent is we want to take researchers and make them entrepreneurs. But not all, in fact, most researchers need to stay in research to generate more new knowledge. And we need to actually then have entrepreneurs. And that's really the role of the science parks and the incubators, that then on the one hand they're acting as a private sector or intermediary, and they're linking up with your universities, Makerere and others to tap in and take those ideas forward.
Oh, excellent. Finally, I was interested also in the idea that you shared about open innovation.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So open innovation is really a concept that I stumbled on it probably in the mid 2000s, and Procter & Gamble had popularized the idea. And the way that it works is that you might have a problem and you want to solve that problem. You've got a number of options. One option is you do the research yourself and you develop the solution. The other one is you go out into the market because there's other people that are somehow dealing with the same problem or similar problems, and they might actually have solutions. And in our case, we did establish an open innovation platform where we'd go out to industry, we'd go to government, and we say, what problems are you facing? And with that, we then put those problems out to the market and say, does anyone have a solution to this? And then we screen the solutions, potential solutions that we received, and then we found the ones that we could marry to the problem, and then we facilitated the agreements, the intellectual property arrangements, and we found that it was actually much quicker to get to the market. And I think we've seen open innovation also working during the vaccine development under COVID. Much of it was really different people contributing intellectual property and ideas.
I noticed some solution that someone came up with about the water problem or water wastage. Is that one of the open innovation initiatives?
Yes, it was because this particular entrepreneur realized that there were water losses. And he had been staying in his grandmother's house, and then you would hear this hissing sound every night. And he went out and looked for solutions. There happened to be another entrepreneur in the ecosystem, and they work together. And today that solution has been rolled out with the support of the municipality, and is being retrofitted into existing houses, and it has found real use in terms of saving water and ensuring that there's more water that can be accounted for and sold.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Your book, Nuts and Bolts, it's available on, is it available on Amazon?
Yes, the soft copy is available on Amazon. one can be able to purchase it on Amazon.
Okay.
Then the hard copies are available in Southern Africa. It's quite difficult to get them up here.
Okay.
So, happy to make arrangements for anyone that is interested in the book. Otherwise, you can also find me on sibandalegacy.africa.
Right.
That's my website where you can be able to see the books. There's Nuts and Bolts, which I did. There's also Footprints, which is my book. And then there's also a book that my wife, Dumi, has written called You Are Enough, which I believe is very good for entrepreneurs, because the journey of entrepreneurship is a tough one. And at times you doubt yourself. You doubt whether you can be able to take the journey to the end. And the book You Are Enough is a companion to any entrepreneur.
Okay, thank you very much. What about your Twitter handle?
So my Twitter handle is McLean Sibanda, MCLEAN Sibanda, SIBANDA. And also you can find me on LinkedIn, just using my name, McLean Sibanda, MCLEAN Sibanda, SIBANDA.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing your insights and for this great book. As I said, I went through it. Took me about a day to go through the whole book, and I loved it, taking notes. And so thank you very much, Dr. Sibanda.
Thank you very much, my brother, and all the best, and to the Pearl of Africa.
Thank you.